All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to now get into talking about the Commanders, just more on their playoff loss and kind of similar to what we talked about with the Bills. Not exactly similar, but, what they have to do to get back to this point again. I did want to bring up, though, the Lions have hired a new offensive coordinator, John Morton. Uh, he will be their next offensive coordinator, replacing Ben Johnson. He's 55, so you go from a younger guy to now an older guy. As my dog starts barking. He spent the last 2 seasons as the Broncos' passing game coordinator, getting a better season out of Russell Wilson in 2023, and also, was with them this past year with Bo Nix, and Bo Nix played well this year. With the limited weapons, obviously the Broncos, another team, similar to what we're going to say with the Commanders, a team that's going to have to surround their young quarterback with more talent. He was also the Jets OC in 2017. Morton was on Dan Campbell's staff as a senior offensive assistant in 2022 and has a background as a wide receivers coach. Morton has a huge amount of talent to work with all over the offense in Detroit. Let's see what he does. This is courtesy of All Sports News on Instagram. So, yeah, Lions have their new offensive coordinator. And obviously we will talk more about another coordinator from the Lions that spoke to the media yesterday, and that is Aaron Glenn. So we'll get into that in the next segment. But let's talk about the Commanders. So, look, how many times am I going to say it? I did a podcast with my friend the other day when we were previewing the championship games. And he had the Commanders, I think, at like 7 or 8 wins. And when I said, I had them going, 4-13 or 5-12, he said that was a bit harsh, and probably was. And early on, after, I made my prediction, my schedule breakdown, there was a part of me that was regretting giving them such a low bar this year, because I said this one could be one that hurts me. And boy, did it ever. Because they not only got more than 4 to 5 wins, they made the playoffs. They won 12 games. They won 2 playoff games, and they made it to the NFC Championship game. They really exceeded expectations. And I don't think Jaden Daniels is the reason they lost on Sunday. His teammates couldn't hold on to the ball. He did throw a pick late, but you're trying to get something. You're just heaving it up and hoping that, your receiver can make a play on it. And, they had a chance to, come back in the game. They were driving. They were down 34 to 23 at one point. And then I think that's when Eckler fumbled. If they score there and then you get a 2-point conversion, all of a sudden it's a 3-point game. But then once Eckler fumbles, then the Eagles just really took over the game. I don't think the Commanders, even if they would have cut the lead to, at least 3, they got a touchdown on that drive, I still don't think they're winning the game. Because the Commanders, they could not stop the Eagles' running game. And that is one of the biggest needs that they're going to need to address this offseason. Got to improve this defensive line. They got to improve this defense as a whole. Because this defense did get picked apart. Now, played a lot better than it did last year because look at how the team finished. And they went and they traded for Marshawn Lattimore, which was a good trade. Because they needed, a top corner, and they got that. But now it's all about improving this team even more. And they got the quarterback to do it. You need more weapons around him. And they surrounded him with more veteran talent. Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler. Yeah, again, those guys ended up being good for them. And Bobby Wagner on the defensive side of the ball. He was, ranked as one of the top linebackers this year. He could still play. But you need more. You need more to that team. You got Terry McLaurin as your number 1 receiver, but you need somebody else. They got Luke McCaffrey, a young guy, but I don't know. They need they need more weapons on that team. You got two good running backs, but I mean, I don't know what Ertz's plans are. I forget what they signed. Did they sign him to a 2-year deal? I mean, either way, I mean, if he wants to keep playing, I think the Commanders should bring him back because he did play well for them. But you need somebody opposite of Terry McLaurin. And, another year for Jaden Daniels, too. Like, Jaden Daniels is only going to get better. And that is one thing that I touched upon during my schedule breakdown is the quarterback play. How is the quarterback play going to be? Because, I mean, I don't really know too much about the rookies coming in. I don't know how they're going to do. And, these rookie quarterbacks, for the most part, they all played well. Two of them made the playoffs, Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix, who we just talked about, or briefly mentioned. This is going to be a really good class. This is a really good class. And Jaden Daniels is a big part of that. So, I didn't know what to expect going into the year. But, you had the coaching staff, you give them a lot of credit. And also, what's interesting is there's, a story that came out about Dan Snyder and, how he's just so ticked off at how well the Commanders played this year because, he was basically forced to sell the team. It's amazing how he did that and, the Commanders made it to the NFC Championship game. I don't know why I keep saying AFC. But who knows? I mean, if he was still the owner, like what would have happened? Maybe they don't get some of the players that they brought in this year. So, I mean, listen, they're going to be back next year. They're going to be a threat in this NFC. I mean, this NFC East, I mean, we could be looking at a pretty good division with the Eagles, the Commanders, and I think Dallas, should bounce back. They get Dak back healthy. You get a decent running game. You pair somebody up with Rico Dowdle. Because Dowdle had some good games this year, but I think you need somebody else there. It's not a bad division like it used to be. It's not the NFC East anymore. And notice how I didn't mention the Giants. The Giants are going to be, unfortunately for Giant fans, they're going to be a punching bag for this division. For the entire division now. Because now, they were punching bags for the Eagles and the Cowboys. Now, you throw the Commanders into it. And the Giants don't have a quarterback. The Eagles got Jalen Hurts. Commanders got Jaden Daniels. And the Cowboys got Dak. Giants have Tommy DeVito. So, yeah. Not looking good for the G-men. But, the Commanders for a long time. I mean, everybody... I mean, it's weird how some of the divisional games would go. Because, like, the Giants would beat them. And then the Commanders would play really well against the Eagles. They have the last couple of years. I mean, obviously not on Sunday. But, they've played some close games against them. Even last year when they weren't that good. The Cowboys... They've won games against them in recent years, but the Cowboys at times have owned them. I mean, look at Thanksgiving last year. Cowboys won what was it, 45-10, something like that. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, no, they're here. They're going to be a threat. So right now, you'd still favor the Eagles. I'd probably still favor the Eagles going into next year. But let's see what the Commanders do. Let's see what they end up doing this offseason to improve this team. They got a lot of work to do. So, but the biggest thing is they got the quarterback. They got the quarterback. And in a year, see, you compare it to, the 2022 Giants. I mean... I mean, the Commanders are a much better team than that team. And on top of that, they made it to a championship game. They beat a number 1 seed on the road. The Giants beat the Vikings, who had one of the worst defenses in the league. They had a soft schedule. at times. The Commanders, they beat some good teams this year. I mean, I know when they beat Philly, Jalen Hurts was beat up, but still. You beat Philly. Jane Daniels played well against that defense. So, the Giants, when they made the playoffs, they didn't beat Dallas or Philly. So, yeah, I mean, hats off to the Commanders, though. They got nothing to be ashamed of. It's just, yeah, you would have liked to have seen the game on Sunday be a little bit more competitive. Definitely. But the Eagles just, they're just a better team. The better team won on Sunday. And like I said, it was going to be a tall task for the Commanders to go in there and knock the Eagles off. So, we'll see how they bounce back next year, but they're going to be a good team again. If they make the right moves this offseason, they're going to be right. They're going to be in the thick of it in 2025. But let me know what you guys think, though, about the Commanders. What potential moves do you think they can make this offseason? Again, you want to add more to the defense, add some more weapons to the offense, get somebody else in there opposite of Terry McLaurin, and then you go from there. So, but they going on this deep playoff run now, they have the experience. They have that playoff experience now. So now it's all about taking that next step next year. And, there's going to be better teams next year. There's going to be teams that had off years that are going to have better years next year. And then there's going to be teams that had good years this year that are going to have off years next year. That's the thing with the NFL. Sometimes for certain teams, it's a year-to-year thing. One year you're good. Next year, maybe you're not so good. Sustainability. That's the key. And that's why the Chiefs have been successful. Because they've been able to sustain it. Sorry, I had to bring that up. I guess you're getting... Now you guys got Chiefs fatigue with the show. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think, though, what the Commanders can potentially do this offseason. So, we are going to take our next break. And then when we come back, we will talk about the press conferences from yesterday. A handful of coaches met with the media, so I'll talk about some of them and what they had to say. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.